At Christmas, I faced heartwarming humiliation, but one incredible guest revealed an amazing truth. Jane stood in the cramped kitchen of her small home, flour dust swirling around like the thoughts in her head. The holidays were almost here, and the joyous spirit that should have filled her heart was tangled up with worry. Bills piled high on the dining table, just like the plates she'd be preparing for Christmas dinner at her tiny apartment. Timmy's wide eyes sparkled with the innocence of childhood dreams. He wanted a big Christmas one filled with toys, laughter, and presents. Jane wanted to give him the world, but with her meager paycheck from Rosie's diner, even a simple meal felt like climbing a mountain. That Christmas Eve, as she stood by the oven checking on the turkey, the doorbell rang. Heart racing, she opened the door to find her estranged father, a figure from her past she thought she'd left behind. The years of silence and hurt flooded back. Resentment bubbled inside her, twisting her stomach into knots. Her father, holding a wilted poinsettia, looked weary yet hopeful. "Can I come in?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly. The family dinner table, once a place of warmth, suddenly felt like a battlefield. As relatives filed into her cramped apartment, judgmental whispers floated through the air like smoke from a dying fire. "Who makes a holiday meal this small?" echoed one voice, slicing through her heart. Just as Jane's cheeks burned with humiliation, Mr. Thompson, the gentle veteran from down the street, stepped forward. No one could ignore him. With a thick brow and kind eyes, he shared a cherished family tradition about the true meaning of Christmas, words drenched in warmth and love. "It's not about the size of the turkey, dear folks," Mr. Thompson began, his voice steady, carrying conviction. "It's about gathering around the table with those you love, the comfort of family, the joy of laughter, and the spirit of giving." The atmosphere shifted dramatically, relatives shifted in their seats, the tension softening, like winter thawing into spring. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Mr. Thompson's heartfelt voice weaved through the room, Jane felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. With each word spoken, her heart expanded, realizing the true essence of the holiday. It wasn't about the bills, or the turkey, or even her father's long absence. It was about connection, unity, love. But just as the warmth enveloped her, her father caught her eye across the room, a mix of sorrow and understanding reflecting in his gaze. Time stood still between them. Could they really bridge the chasm that years of unspoken hurt had carved in their relationship? Could they find healing amid a room filled with laughter? As the sounds of memories filled the air, Jane wondered, would this Christmas finally be the one where they began to mend their broken bond, or would unresolved pain overshadow the joy? The clock ticked toward midnight, and Jane's heart beat faster, teetering on the edge of hope and fear, uncertainty swirling like the snow outside, waiting to see if their family could truly embrace the spirit of togetherness once more. Jane's heart raced as she locked eyes with her father. Memories flooded her mind like a river bursting its banks. How many Christmases had they spent apart? How many family stories had gone untold? A lump formed in her throat, but she fought to keep her composure, not wanting Timmy to see her falter. Mr. Thompson's voice continued to resonate in the room, pulling everyone back into the warmth of the moment. "We gather not to shed light on what we lack but to celebrate what we have," he continued, smiling kindly. His words began to chip away at Jane's reluctance. "Perhaps this Christmas could be different. Mom? Can we invite Grandpa to sit with us?" Timmy, innocent and pure, pulled at her skirt, eyes wide and gleaming like the twinkling lights on the tree. Jane hesitated. Her father noticed, the weight of the moment resting heavily on both of them. "Wouldn't that be nice?" Her father murmured, the edges of his lips just barely turning upwards. At that moment, Jane caught a glimpse of the man he once was, the man who used to throw her into the air until her giggle sounded like music. But along with that joy came the fear of being hurt again. "Okay," she finally said, surprising even herself. The word hung in the air like a single snowflake slowly drifting down. "Come on. Let us sit together." Timmy dashed to the table, eager and blissfully unaware of the emotional minefield they were navigating. As her father took a seat, the room seemed to hold its breath. Jane's relatives glanced at each other, uncertainty tinged with hesitant curiosity. Mr. Thompson put a comforting hand on her shoulder, a silent message of support. "Can we pray?" Timmy asked, his small voice piercing the tension. With a slight nod from Jane, he began, his words simple yet profound, echoing their innocent view of the world. "Thank you for the food and for everyone here. Thank you for family, even if they are a little broken sometimes." Tears pricked Jane's eyes. In that moment, she understood family wasn't just about shared blood, it was about shared moments, the good and the bad. She glanced at her father, who was blinking back his own tears, an unspoken promise passing between them. The dinner progressed, with laughter weaving in and out of the conversations. Each stolen glance and tentative smile shared with her father felt like a small victory. They spoke of old memories, of shared stories that had once created a rift but were now serving as bridges. Timmy's laughter lit up the room, grounding them in the present. His joy seemed to melt away years of thick ice that had separated Jane from her father. She began to feel light, as if the burdens she had carried were lifted, one shared laugh at a time. Yet, just when they thought they were making headway, the doorbell rang again, pulling Jane's focus away from the moment. Who could it be? She exchanged a wary glance with her father before heading to the door. As she opened it, her heart sank and soared all at once. Standing there was someone she never expected to see again. Would this revelation bring even more upheaval, or could it be the final piece in their messy family puzzle? Surprise! The voice chimed joyously, opening the door to a future she could never have imagined. Jane's breath caught as she stood in the doorway, her mind racing to grasp the reality of the figure standing before her. It took a moment for recognition to settle in, and when it did, a whirlwind of emotions crashed over her. Lisa? The name slipped from her lips, fragile and disbelieving. Her younger sister, wearing a beaming smile and a scarf that looked suspiciously familiar, took a step forward. "We thought we'd surprise you. I can't believe I'm finally home for Christmas." As she stepped into the house, the warmth enveloped them both. Jane felt an exhilarating rush, like diving into cool water on a hot summer day. In that instant, decades of childhood memories flickered to life. The two of them had played under the Christmas tree, giggling over gifts that often turned into silly games. "Timmy, look who it is!" Jane called, her voice almost breaking with joy. Timmy's eyes widened at the sight of his Aunt Lisa. "Aunt Lisa!" he shouted, racing over to wrap his little arms around her legs. "Hey, pumpkin!" Lisa scooped him up, spinning him around, laughter echoing in the room. It was as if the air itself had shifted, the atmosphere lighter, filled with possibilities. Jane's heart soared at the sight. "I can't believe you made it!" she exclaimed, pulling Lisa into a tight hug. "But how? I thought you couldn't leave your job for the holidays." "No job is worth missing Christmas with my family," Lisa replied, her voice genuine and warm. "I convinced them to let me take some time off. I almost didn't make it, but here I am." The two shared a look that spoke volumes. Years of separation, misunderstandings, and the weight of unspoken words all began to dissolve in the warmth of the moment. But Jane's happiness was tinged with worry about how her father would respond. "Dad," Jane said, turning her gaze. Mr. Thompson stood frozen at the dinner table, his fork halfway to his mouth, eyes wide with disbelief. There was a mixture of shock and elation crossing his face, emotions running deeper than words could convey. "Lisa," he said slowly, the name palpable on his tongue, as if he were tasting something both sweet and bitter. "Is that really you?" "Hi, Dad," she chirped, setting Timmy down and taking a cautious step forward. "I'm home." Jane held her breath, her heart racing as she braced herself for a reaction. Would he pull her close, or would the hurt of years past paint his response? To Jane's relief, her father's face broke into a smile, a genuine smile that whispered of forgiveness and healing. "I can hardly believe it," he murmured, stepping closer. As they embraced, a ripple of relief coursed through Jane. With her sister home, perhaps the fractures in their family could begin to mend for good. Maybe this will be the best Christmas ever, she thought, but before she could fully relish the idea, a sudden knock echoed from the door again. Jane's heart plummeted. Could they withstand more surprises? Who else could it possibly be? She wondered as Lisa's eyes sparkled with mischievous anticipation. The moment felt charged, as if the night held secrets yet to be unveiled. With a shared glance among the family members, they turned their attention to the door once more, uncertainty looming thick in the air. What awaited them on the other side? Would this new visitor bring more healing or complicate the fragile peace? The door swung open slowly, revealing a figure wrapped in a heavy coat, snowflakes caught in the thick fabric. It was hard to see their face, but Jane could feel the pulse of anticipation buzzing in the room. "Who the heck is that?" Timmy exclaimed, his little hand clasped tightly in Jane's. Jane took a step forward, a mix of curiosity and concern turning in her stomach. She couldn't shake the feeling that whatever or whoever was behind that door might either bring more joy or knock down the delicate momentum they had just built. Then the figure stepped into the light, brushing off the snow to reveal a familiar face. Surprise! It was Matt, Jane's childhood friend and someone she hadn't seen in years. "Matt!" She gasped, her heart now racing for an entirely different reason. Memories rushed back, a whirlwind of laughter at summer barbecues, terrible high school dance moves, and moments shared by the Christmas tree that felt as real now as they did back then. "What are you doing here?" she asked, unable to hide the delight in her voice. Her eyes darted to Lisa, who wore a proud grin, and then back to Matt, his cheeks flushed from the cold and his smile infectious. "I heard news that Lisa was coming home," he said, grinning widely as he stepped over the threshold. "Couldn't miss out on the chance to catch up with both of you." Timmy tugged on Jane's sleeve. "Is he the funny one?" "The funniest," Jane confirmed, and as she and Matt exchanged knowing smiles, the atmosphere thickened once again, not with tension this time, but with warmth. "You guys look just the same," Matt laughed, glancing at Lisa and then back at Jane. "It's like no time has passed. Not even a minute." But that easy joy was shattered as Mr. Thompson cleared his throat, the transition from joy to caution creeping in. "Well, that's nice, but not everyone is exactly thrilled to see," he hesitated, a cloud of discomfort crossing his face as he remembered how things had ended the last time they met. "Dad," Jane interjected, sensing the tender line of unspoken words between her father and Matt. The air felt charged with unresolved feelings as both men held a piece of a past that had left scars, not just for them but for her too. "Oh, Dad. Come on, this is a time for family and friends. Isn't that what the holidays are about?" Jane's voice caught, hoping to bridge the gap, hoping to soothe the tension spilling into her family's moment of joy. But there was a silence that seemed to swallow her words. She could see a flicker in her father's eyes, a flicker of old wounds. "Matt," Mr. Thompson finally said, his voice firm yet cautious, "you know this isn't the best time for reunions." The room felt like it was holding its breath. This could spiral into something Jane hadn't prepared for. Lisa took a small step back, and Jane could see the reality of the situation sweep over her sister like a dark cloud. Still, hope flickered in Jane's chest, a resilient beat amidst the potential chaos. "Let us not dwell on the past. We can all talk and laugh like we used to," Matt offered, his tone earnest but shaky, clearly aware of what lingered in the air. "Broken memories could heal," she thought. Wasn't that what Christmas was supposed to do? Yet, the chance felt perilously balanced between hope and regret, and Jane didn't know if they were ready for the truth behind those old wounds. As another knock echoed from the door, she felt a wave of dread wash over her. What else could possibly come crashing into their fragile reunion? With apprehension knotted in her stomach, she wondered if they would ever really be able to confront the ghosts of their past. The door swung open once more, and Jane braced herself, her heart pounding as the next surprise entered the room. Jane's breath caught in her throat as the door opened wider, revealing a woman with wild, curly hair and an undeniably bright smile. Carried by a warm breeze despite the snowstorm raging outside, she stepped into the room, shaking off the cold like a breath of fresh air. "Did someone say Christmas party? Because I brought the cookies." "Megan!" Timmy exclaimed, running over, his little arms pushing against her side as she knelt to embrace him. Laughter filled the room, cutting through the tension that had moments ago seemed insurmountable. Jane managed a smile, relief washing over her like a wave, though she knew there was still an undercurrent of unease with the reunion of past faces. Megan, always the bright spark in any gathering, stood to face the uncertain crowd, her eyes darting from Jane to Lisa, and finally landing on Matt and Mr. Thompson. "Wow! This is the most unexpected gathering. It feels like a scene straight out of a holiday movie." Despite herself, Jane laughed, feeling the chains of apprehension loosen. Megan was a tornado of joy and energy, and as she began passing around freshly baked cookies, the room seemed to breathe again. "Where's the hot cocoa, though? No holiday gathering is complete without hot cocoa," she declared, her eyes twinkling. "I can help with that," Lisa said, eager to contribute. As they moved toward the kitchen, Jane caught Matt's eye. "You know her?" he asked, the surprise in his voice bridging the silence that had lingered too long. "From college," Jane said, her heart warming again. "She's incredible. No one can resist her energy. She can light up a room." Matt chuckled. "Seems like she already has." But just as the tension started to fade, Jane noticed Mr. Thompson shift uncomfortably in his chair, his gaze firmly fixed on the ground. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes, resonating with questions that had never fully been answered. "Hey, Dad," Jane ventured, her voice careful as she examined his expression. "How about we get some cocoa too?" He nodded slowly, as if awakening from a stupor, and Jane could see his hesitance wane ever so slightly. Perhaps the comfort of cocoa could bridge the gaps between generations. As the laughter and warmth began swirling in a familiar rhythm, Jane felt a surge of hope. Maybe this time, they could face the past together. But just as she thought they were finding their way, the door rattled once more. Faint shadows danced behind the frosted glass, and Jane's heart sank. Who else could be waiting outside in this blizzard? "Okay, I'm officially worried now," Matt said, glancing between Jane and her dad. "Is this how Christmas works? You throw open the door too many times, and it just keeps getting messy, eh?" An anxious chuckle escaped Jane's lips. "I guess we're about to find out." As she moved toward the door, a mix of trepidation and anticipation surged through her. Could they endure more surprises? What story awaited them beyond that door this time? With a deep breath, she reached for the handle, imagining all the possibilities that lay on the other side. As Jane turned the doorknob, the sound of the storm outside swirled around her like a whirlwind. The handle felt cold against her palm, icy in contrast to the warmth beginning to radiate from the gathering behind her. She hesitated for just a moment, unsure of what or who might be waiting. With another deep breath, she pulled the door open. Standing there, drenched from the snow that clung stubbornly to his coat, was a tall figure. Jane's heart dropped. "Philip?" "Surprise," he replied, a sheepish smile breaking through his frozen demeanor. The tension in her chest tightened for a heartbeat, memories rushing back, the laughter, the heartache, and the awkward silence that followed their last encounter. Isn't it a little late for a surprise? Jane replied, trying to mask her surprise with teasing. But inside, emotions clashed like the storm outside. Apparently not, Philip said, lifting the bag tucked under his arm, revealing a bottle of wine and what looked like homemade fudge. I couldn't let you celebrate without your favorite treats. And I figured some holiday cheer wouldn't hurt. As he stepped inside, brushing snow from his hair, Jane caught Megan's eye. Instead of the joyful look past moments demanded, Megan raised an eyebrow, her smile fading a touch. Jane sighed internally, it was too much. What are you doing here, Philip? Jane asked, grounding herself as the whirlwind of emotions threatened to sweep her away. I didn't want to miss the chance to make things right. I thought. His words faltered as he searched her eyes, a vulnerability hanging heavily in the air between them. Mr. Thompson, now seated again but still distant, looked up, his expression a mix of confusion and caution. This was exactly what Jane didn't want, a repetition of past mistakes and awkward clarifications. You shouldn't have come, she finally said, forcing herself to be steady. I know. But I had to try, he admitted, and there was a softness to his tone that tugged at her heart. The unmistakable weight of old feelings blossomed like a forgotten flower in spring. A tense silence fell upon the room, and Jane felt Matt shift uncomfortably. This is starting to feel like one of those holiday specials, isn't it? He said, trying to lighten the mood. But Jane's pulse raced. This wasn't just a fun gathering anymore, it was a tangled web of old stories and unresolved emotions. Megan, sensing the tension, stepped forward, determined to bring a smile back to the room. Let us not forget our hot cocoa. I bet it will work wonders for everyone. As she rushed to the kitchen, Jane caught Philip's gaze once more. I really don't think this is the right time, she whispered, her voice trembling. Maybe it's exactly the right time for some honesty, he replied softly, stepping closer, each heartbeat amplifying the weight of his statement. Before she could respond, the door swung open again. This time, it was Lisa, a look of sheer surprise on her face as she walked in with another bundle of goodies. She paused, her eyes darting between Philip and Jane, catching the unspoken tension. Did I miss something? Should I be worried? Jane's heart sank deeper. How would she explain this? How could she reconcile the lingering past with the moment at hand? Maybe it's time we all face the music, Matt said quietly, his eyes flickering between the newcomers, sensing that it was not just Christmas cookies that would be shared tonight but confessions, regrets, and perhaps a chance at clarity. As Jane looked at each face in the room, she felt the weight of the night push down harder on her shoulders. How many more surprises could one night hold? And were they all prepared for the truth waiting to be uncovered? With each question hanging in the air, the storm outside continued to roar, but it was nothing compared to the storm brewing within. What if the revelations that followed were as chilling as the winds outside? Would they break apart or finally shatter the walls that had kept them all from healing? Her heart racing, Jane braced herself for whatever was coming next. Jane's heart raced as the air thickened with unspoken words. She glanced at Philip, the way his eyes held hers so intently made it hard to think. The room felt charged, the kind of energy that promised something profound, yet terrifying. Megan bustled back with steaming mugs, breaking the spell but not the tension. Handing out cups of cocoa, she flashed a bright, hopeful smile as if it could erase the heaviness pressing down on them. What's the deal with the two of you? Lisa asked, her brow furrowed in confusion as she juggled her bundle of cookies. You look like you're about to have a soap opera moment right here. Jane felt the heat rush to her cheeks. It's not like that, she stumbled, trying to steer the conversation. But the truth was, the acknowledgement of their shared past stirred something deep within her, something she had tried hard to bury. Then what is it? Lisa pressed, unconvinced. You can't just drop a surprise like this and expect us to ignore it. Instead of answering, Jane turned her gaze to Philip. He took a deep breath, and as he did, the room seemed to hold its breath with him. I know it's complicated, and I'm not here to make a scene. His voice wavered, and for a brief moment, a flicker of self-doubt crossed his face. Maybe you should just say what you need to say, Matt encouraged softly, sensing that Philip needed a nudge. Jane's heart reacted violently. Did she really want to hear whatever Philip was about to say? But there was another part of her, a part that remembered their laughter, the way he had made her feel seen in a way that no one else had. I'm sorry for how things ended between us, Philip began, determination flooding his voice. I never wanted to hurt you. I messed up, and I've regretted it ever since. I just thought maybe what? Jane interrupted, feeling a mix of anger and longing bubble up. Maybe we could start over? His words hung in the air, raw and vulnerable, leaving her stunned. The room fell silent, save for the wind howling outside. Jane felt her chest constrict, and for a fleeting moment, she could see flashes of their past, the good, the bad, and everything in between. Part of her wanted to scream no and slam the door shut on the memories. But another part, a part that had dared to hope, whispered deeply within her, what if? I don't think she managed to say, her voice a mere whisper, but even she could hear the hesitance. Before she could continue, Megan interjected, breaking the building tension. Okay, so we've got hot cocoa and cookies. Let us lighten this mood, huh? Jane, you should share that embarrassing story about the high school dance. Everyone laughed, and that peal of laughter seemed to serve as a deflector, dispersing the emotional knot in the air. But Philip didn't let it go. His eyes didn't leave Jane's, and the weight of the moment settled in again, full of unspoken possibilities. While we're at it, why don't you give us the real dish on what has been going on? Lisa chimed in. We need some juicy gossip to keep this party interesting. In that moment, Jane felt the walls of her heart crack, not just from Philip's admission but from the overwhelming support of her friends. Okay, she said, steeling herself. Let us spill some beans. But I can't promise it won't come with a side of regret. As they settled down with their mugs, Jane realized she was standing on a threshold. She hadn't intended to confront her feelings, but perhaps that was the very thing she needed to do. With Philip's hopeful gaze fixed on her and her friends around her, there was a sense that this night could lead to something unexpected. She took a deep breath, ready to share, but even then, a weighty question hung in her mind: would she have the courage to reveal more than just her past? It was time to find out. Jane's heart raced as she gathered her thoughts, flipping through memories like pages in an old book. The cocoa felt warm in her hands, grounding her, yet everything still felt so fragile. She could feel the weight of her friends waiting for her words, and somewhere deep down, she sensed this was more than just a casual chat. Okay, so maybe it isn't all bad, she started, looking at Philip and then at Lisa, who awaited her story eagerly. You all remember the senior prom? A chorus of groans and laughter erupted as they recalled their teenage antics. Jane chuckled, the memories swirling in her mind: confetti, awkward dance moves, and that terrible dress she had insisted on wearing. But a smile faded as she focused back on Philip. He had been there, laughing with her, and the warmth of that memory tugged at her heart and settled deep into her chest. Well, Jane continued, gathering her courage, I may or may not have totally tripped and spilled punch all over the principal. The room burst into laughter, but she sensed Philip's eyes drawing her in, urging her to say more. That was one of the most embarrassing moments ever, she continued, her voice gaining strength, but somehow, I felt okay. Like I could laugh it off with my friends and with him. Philip's expression shifted, revealing a mix of nostalgia and yearning. Jane couldn't help but wonder if he remembered that night the same way she did. But, I'd have to say the more significant moment was after, when I decided to turn my embarrassment into something positive, Jane said, her mind shifting back to how she had created a surprise, after-prom, party for everyone at a friend's house. Maybe that's what you do. You take painful moments and flip them into something beautiful. Her words hung in the air as she glanced around the room. Lisa nodded, eyes bright, while Megan leaned in, captivated. The laughter faded just a bit, and a serious atmosphere enveloped them. "That's a great philosophy, Jane," Lisa said, her voice thoughtful. "Taking something cringe-worthy and making it a part of your story instead of letting it define you." Jane felt a rush of warmth both from the cocoa and from their support. Yet, the sense of what stood beneath the surface still lingered. A nagging thought caught her, creeping back into her mind, stealing her resolve. "Do you think it's even possible to have a second chance?" she asked, her voice suddenly quiet. She didn't want to tear apart the moment, but she needed to know. Philip took in her question, and with a nervous edge to his voice, he said, "I know it might sound crazy after everything, but I believe it is. I think we could start fresh if you wanted to." His sincerity washed over her like a wave, but it also sent a chill down her spine. Megan and Matt exchanged glances, sensing the weight of the conversation. The laughter faded back to the periphery, replaced with a collective breath held tight. Jane started, caught between fear and the flickering hope of new beginnings. But she couldn't finish her thought as the door swung open with a sudden gust of wind, and in walked Julia, their friend who had been missing for weeks. Her entrance shifted the momentum, and Jane felt both relief and dread. For all she wanted to share, she knew Julia's return would add another unpredictable layer to the night. "Guys! You won't believe what just happened," Julia exclaimed, eyes sparkling with an excitement that infected the room. As the attention turned toward Julia, Jane couldn't shake the feeling of an impending choice looming in front of her. Would she embrace the possibility of rekindling her past with Philip, or would the surprise of life twist her path yet again? The air thrummed with anticipation, and as Jane looked from Philip to Julia, the question lingered in her mind: was this the turning point she had been waiting for all along? Jane watched as Julia bounced into the room, the brightness of her presence pushing down the heavy topic of their conversation. It was a momentarily jarring shift, like the flick of a light switch. The laughter and warmth in Julia's eyes were contagious, instantly drawing everyone into her orbit. Jane felt a mix of longing and frustration. She still had so much to say, and yet here was Julia, a whirlwind of energy and surprise, overshadowing her moment. "What happened? Are you okay?" Lisa asked, her own curiosity piqued. "Oh, I'm more than okay. You'll never believe where I've been," Julia began, her excitement spilling over. She plopped down on the couch, bouncing slightly. "I went to this amazing art retreat upstate. The scenery was breathtaking, and I met this artist who..." Her voice trailed off as she glanced around, sensing the group's anticipation. "Well, let's just say I'm full of inspiration and ideas." Jane listened, her heart tugging at the corners. She was genuinely happy for Julia, but a small part of her fought for her own narrative. It was as if Julia's return set off a clock, ticking loudly in her mind, reminding her that these pivotal moments could slip away, overshadowed in the chaos of life. "Were you gone the whole time?" Megan chimed in, eyebrows raised. "Yeah. I just needed some time away," Julia replied, her gaze flitting to Jane for a moment. "I needed space to think about some things. Kind of like what you were all doing, right?" Jane's heart dropped. Did Julia know? The unspoken words hung heavily between them, a shared understanding of the corners of their lives that they kept hidden. Jane sat up straighter, realizing she had to reclaim her own space in this conversation. "Actually, we were just talking about second chances," Jane said, her voice steady, flushing with determination. The moment felt pivotal. She glanced toward Philip, hoping for a spark of encouragement from him. He nodded slightly, his expression urging her to continue. "I was just wondering if it's ever really possible to start fresh, you know?" Julia's eyes sparkled with intrigue, and she leaned forward. "That's deep." "I think it can be, but it's also terrifying, right?" Jane could see the way Julia exuded raw honesty, the way her words wrapped around everyone in the room. "You have to be willing to let go of what you think you know and embrace the unknown." "Yeah," Jane said, feeling the warmth rise in her chest again. But what if what's in the past is still looming over you? Like, what if you still have unanswered questions? For a heartbeat, the room was silent, the pulse of their mixed emotions weaving through the air like a delicate thread. Then Philip spoke, his voice low but clear. You just have to decide if you're ready to confront those questions. I mean, Jane, you can do it if you want to. She felt the weight of his gaze again, that deep connection pulling her in. And yet, the reality of Julia's return nudged at her consciousness. They had plans, stories to tell, paths to forge. Right, Julia said, breaking the pregnant silence, her enthusiasm bubbling again. Every story has its ups and downs, doesn't it? She looked around, and Jane couldn't help but admire her resilience. What if we turn this night into something special, a small celebration of our stories? The suggestion landed like a soft comet, illuminating possibilities. But Jane hesitated, her heart still gripped by the urgency of the decision ahead of her. She wanted her moment, and she wanted clarity about her feelings for Philip, about whether second chances were truly possible. Maybe we could do a toast? Megan suggested, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. To friendships, new beginnings, and surprises. As they raised their mugs, Jane felt the tension dissipate just slightly. It was still there, simmering beneath the surface like the cocoa in their cups, but for now, she'd ride the wave of camaraderie. Underneath, though, she grappled with the choice that loomed large in her mind. Here's to us, Jane said quietly, raising her cup. Each face around her glowed with anticipation, but in her heart, Jane knew that the next chapter of her life was waiting for her to turn the page. Could she really allow herself to step into the unknown? And as they cheered, Jane caught Julia's eye, an unexpected glimmer of understanding. Something inside her urged her to explore what lay ahead, but what if the truth Julia had discovered during her retreat changed everything? As the cheers rang out, Jane's heart thudded against her chest. The warmth of the moment enveloped her, yet shadows of uncertainty loomed nearby. Between the clinks of cocoa mugs and the laughter swirling around, the echoes of the past entangled with the possibilities of the future. Cheers to surprises! Timmy shouted, his innocent glee brightening the room. Jane smiled, but beneath the surface, anxiety twisted her thoughts. Each face sparkled with delight, yet her heart still grappled with Philip's proposal, the memories mingling with unresolved feelings. Maybe we should all share our resolutions, Lisa suggested, her enthusiasm infectious. Let us see what we want for this new year. Jane took a deep breath. She felt an urge to turn the conversation toward hope, to let go of the burdens she couldn't carry alone. Okay, she began, her voice steadying despite her racing heartbeat. I want to be brave enough to face second chances. She cast a quick glance at Philip, who watched her with anticipation. I want to embrace the unknown. No more holding back. The room filled with a murmur of encouragement, nods passing between her friends. It was like opening a door to something new. But the path ahead felt foggy and tumultuous. I want that too, Philip said, stepping forward. I want to rebuild what we had and explore what it could be. The air crackled with tension, but Jane also felt the spark of connections forming. If they faced this together, perhaps they might dismantle what had kept them apart. Let us all promise to be honest about what we really want, Julia chimed in, her warm eyes shifting toward each individual. That's the only way we can truly support each other. Megan grinned, raising her mug again, to honesty and beginnings, and all the cookie dough we can handle. Laughter erupted, relieving tension like a gentle sigh. But just when Jane thought they could ease into this newfound sense of freedom, she noticed her father still sitting quietly at the table, lost in thought. She approached him, her heart pounding. The flicker of a deep conversation lingered in his eyes, and she wanted to bridge the emotional distance that still threatened to anchor their family down. Dad, what's on your mind? He looked up, the warmth in his gaze softening as he met hers. I've missed so much time. I never wanted it to be like this, Jane. I need to ask for your forgiveness." The sincerity in his voice struck her like lightning, igniting moments of hurt but also of healing. I can work on that too," she whispered, emotion swelling. "It's so hard to navigate everything, but I want to get there." With tears glistening in her father's eyes, he reached out, capturing her hand. "We can start again. Together." A ripple of understanding flowed in the room, each person reflecting their own desires for connection. Jane felt surrounded by support, a mosaic of relationships forming as layers of shared experiences peeled back. As their conversation shifted, Timmy brought the group back to laughter, sharing funny stories about school. The room buzzed with joy again, the echoes of laughter sweeping them away from past sorrows, pulling them into a new world filled with hope. And as Jane looked around, she caught sight of Philip catching glances between herself and Timmy. "You see how he lights up?" she mused. "He's the best reminder of why family matters." "Family isn't just blood," Philip replied softly, "it's those who show up on the hardest days, the ones that make you feel at home, wherever you are." As they shared glimpses of their lives, Jane felt the threads draw tighter. It became a patchwork of laughter, joy, and heartfelt connections, encompassing more than she ever thought possible. At that moment, amidst warm conversations and the clank of mugs, Jane made a decision. She would begin anew not just with Philip but with every person surrounding her. The complex tapestry of relationships was ready to be woven together again, each string infused with a powerful presence, a chance for love, healing, and renewal. As the clock struck midnight, marking the beginning of a new year, Jane felt infused with hope. Maybe this Christmas wasn't about perfected presents or extravagant meals, but about the raw, messy reality of togetherness. "Happy New Year!" everyone shouted, smiles illuminating their faces like stars in the night sky. Jane felt the flush of happiness wash over her as she replied, "Happy New Year." As they raised their mugs together for one final toast, Jane realized this was just the beginning. The past might linger in the shadows, but the path forward was glowing with promise. Love was the greatest gift, and it was a gift she was willing to open wide. In that moment, time stood still. She felt fully alive, finally ready to embrace a future that was blossoming right before her eyes. Now, as we finish this heartfelt journey, don't forget you need to subscribe now for more stories that inspire and heal. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover these transformative tales. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with 5 friends who need to see this beautiful transformation. Your support means everything.